It's time once again to step out, step up, and step into the Coming Out Lounge, a safe space to be you and your truth with coming out coach Rick Clemens. Rick's expertise in the coming out process has helped hundreds of men and women ignite their inner desires to powerfully step out of the closet and into the light of living authentically as gays and lesbians. Freeing you from the feelings of guilt or shame, Rick offers take-action tips for basking in the glow of self-love, easy-to-implement tools for wrapping yourself up in the warm embrace of self-acceptance, and take-it-to-the-bank advice on how to step courageously into a powerful, purpose-filled life on the other side of the closet doors. Each week, the Coming Out Lounge brings you heartwarming coming out stories, insights for living authentically as a gay or lesbian, and challenges you to step out of the ordinary and into your extraordinary life. Pull up a chair, cuddle up with the truth of who you've always been, and let's spend an hour in the Coming Out Lounge discovering how to energetically step out, step up, and step into living your truth. Here's the host of your show, Coming Out Coach Rick.
Hello, Closet Busters. It is that time once again to stop the closet dwelling and to step out, step up, and step into living your powerful truth. Even if that powerful truth means you're going to tell shame to take it out the door and get out of your way. In fact, that's what we're focusing on today, because every one of us here on the planet in some way has experienced our own form of shame. Of course, then there's that wonderful thing that we all live in, which is our own bodies, and we could really get this shame talk going about that one. We're never thin enough, our skin's never bronzed enough, whatever it is, and then you add to it, we're never rich enough, and we don't have a good enough job. Man, oh man, oh man, can we get going? But today we're going to keep the focus on body shame. It's kind of that, that permanent residence that's taken its, residence in the LGBT community. People used to think it was, it's just a woman's thing to have body shame. Oh, no. And I can tell you as a gay man that I have plenty of that body shame going on myself. In fact, it's very, very prevalent in the gay community, and we've found the ultimate way to put ourselves down is to look at our body and tell us we're unworthy, we're not good enough, and quite honestly, nobody else even has to say a word about it. We just do it to ourselves. Well, you know what? Today, that's all about to change. It's time for us to realize that, this shame and body shame thing, it's all a shared human experience, and we can all get through this together, and it's time to kick it out of our life. And joining me today on the Coming Out Lounge is a really cool guy. His name is Jesse Brune, and Jesse, he's a gay man. Surprise, surprise. I have a lot of different people on, and every once in a while I'll go find another gay brother to bring on the show. He's a celebrity chef, he's a personal trainer, and he's a lifestyle coach, and he's a guy with a really, really deep heart. Now, he may sound familiar just by his name, Jesse Brune, because maybe you've seen him on Workout on Bravo, maybe you've caught him on Private Chefs of Beverly Hills on the Food Network, and you might even have seen him on Homemade Simple on the Oprah Winfrey Network. But that all aside, this guy is one beautiful man. He heads up Project Service LA, and he's doing beautiful work to help people really get introduced to themselves and be higher beings in the world. Welcome to the show, Jesse Brune. Hey, Jesse, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. It's so good to be here. And just what a beautiful intro. I feel so loved.
Well, you are loved, man. And I really, I got to know you through the LGBT summit you just did a couple of months ago. And of course, I knew you from Bravo and all that too. And I was like, okay, who's that really cute guy? And then suddenly I saw, oh my God, he's this guy. And I'm like, oh wow, I'd love to get to interview him. And now, the divine has delivered. So I really love the work you're doing all over the world, especially in the world of spirituality. It's just really cool stuff.
Thank you so much. And I do have to just put in a couple notes to the intro, or
sure.
I'll get in trouble.
Of course you will.
Okay, so the name now my name has grown like many things.
Yeah.
It's Jesse Brune-Horan.
Okay.
And yeah,
that tells me somebody's in your life then.
Oh yeah, he put a ring on it over a year ago now. So my husband Christopher and I are definitely. It's funny, the name change has been such a process with both of us. And it's not that like we own it, we stand in it, but it has been this sort of strange growing process. So it took us about a year to actually start filling out the paperwork to make it official.
Right.
But as our family grows, so do our names.
Cool.
And also, well, a cool thing to share is that Homemade Simple, just like a month ago, won an Emmy for Outstanding Lifestyle Program, a Daytime Emmy. So that was
awesome.
I know, it's cool to be a part of that.
Wow. I feel like it's cool to be getting to interview this guy. So, wow, they just went the whole Rick show. It's like, oh, cool. It's kind of like, I just did something in Portland. I was at World Domination Summit. No, it's not a BDSM thing, folks. Okay, get over it. It's a beautiful place where world entrepreneurs get together. And every year we break world records. So, of course, now I say I'm a world record, breaker holder. So there we go. Now I can say, and I've interviewed Emmy Award-winning celebrities. So,
There you go.
There we go. But that's so cool, man. Congrats on that. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very, it's sort of like came out of the blue. And I was expecting, I was like, now, what, do I walk through the world differently? And not really. No. But it's cool. It's cool to say.
It is fun to say those things. And somebody said to me when I was on the Ricky Lake show, they're like, oh, wow, how's life changed? I'm like, well, it didn't really change anything. My business didn't just catapult through the window. It's just I got to share my words and myself and be of service in a different way than I was yesterday, but I'm still the same guy.
Yeah, for sure. The last note that I will say is, and it's very recent, but because I just like people to be able to find what they're looking for in this world, why not? We changed the name of the organization from Project Service LA to Inspire Spiritual Community. Mm-hmm. So we really felt like we evolved into it. So on our 5th anniversary, we changed the name officially to Inspire because that's what we're doing, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And, I think that's a great segue into this conversation. So a lot of the work that you're doing is about inspiring people to really be more who they are, to be more conscious in the world. So take us on a quick journey from where that really entered your life, because I know that wasn't always the case in your own personal life.
Well, I will definitely say that I've always been like a self-proclaimed God guy.
Yeah.
And I've always felt really connected just to it all, and I didn't have too many trials and tribulations coming out of the closet. I was young. I came out young. I came out when I was about 16 in 1996. And I had a very loving family. And though it was new to everybody, we sort of muscled our way through it. But what I did sort of feel like I had to sacrifice, and I think a lot of LGBTQ people had this experience, is that we felt like we had to divorce the God we grew up with, the God that we were taught about in church, because being gay wasn't going to swing there. So
Sure.
It kind of came to this point where you choose, okay, am I going to be me, or am I going to pretend to be somebody else so God won't hate me? And when you're 16 and you have that surge of hormones, the choice is pretty easy to make. So away I went on a godless life. Mm-hmm. But what that path took me down to was a lot of drug and alcohol abuse and everything that comes along with that. I'm sober now, actually. I'm 8 years of sobriety, which is very wonderful. It's
Yay.
Great to have that clarity. And right before I got sober, actually, I was in culinary school. And to help myself pay the bills while I was in culinary school, I became a personal trainer. And I was working at Barry's Boot Camp, which is now this huge chain all over the world. God bless. And my class started to become pretty popular. And I caught the eye of a reality show producer that was casting for Workout, the original cast of Workout. I think they're starting a new cast in New York or something.
Right.
And they extended an invitation to audition, and I said, I was like, well, I'm always up for adventure, so I'll go see, but I'm not really interested. I just spent all this money in culinary school. I need to cook. But through the process of the auditions, they said, well, we'll feature you as a chef. How about that? It'll be great. And you can be the trainer who's also a chef, and it'll be a good food thing. And I thought, I'm in, let's do it. So a new adventure began, and it was an experience for sure. I won't say that it was it was a life-changing experience. It wasn't like a wonderful, heartfelt experience. There was actually all those insecurities that we talked about were magnified.
Right.
Since I can actually name the moment when I was 8 years old. I was getting ready, and my grandfather was visiting, and he was sort of a jokester, and he was really sweet. But I was getting ready in front of the mirror, and he looked at me. He goes, "Uh-oh, those jeans are getting pretty tight. You better watch out. You don't want to get fat." And from that moment on, I was a fat person. And now I was a dancer in high school. I was rail thin, but I never knew that. I always thought I was fat, very ashamed of my body. And so, of course, I think that the universe helps us in healing what needs to be healed. So, of course, here I'm on a reality show on Bravo. And this was still when Bravo was new. Like, we didn't know that it was going to be so mean or so, whatever. I had no idea. I had no experience with it. And so, the second season of the show came around, and, this was the last few months of my drinking. And I had gained like 15 pounds or something like that since the first season. And they started talking about, well, what are the story arcs of the season? And they said, we'd really like to gain your weight problem. And I was like, my what? Your weight problem. It's become a problem. And I was like, and this was granted like 2 days before we started filming. And I was like, I'd rather not, thank you.
Right.
But as soon as we were filming, like the second day of filming, we were at the beach, and they said, all right, everybody shirts off. And I knew what was going to happen. I knew that this was going to be like a body shaming thing for me.
Right.
And that's exactly what unfolded. When I saw the episode air, I saw my co-stars saying things like, he's a fat pig, he's disgusting, how can he call himself a trainer? And it was literally my worst nightmare being acted out in front of me. And I started getting like hateful emails and like death threats, people telling me that if they saw me, they'd kill me because I'm so disgusting. And it was like, in retrospect now, I see that. I was like, well, those are the exact same thoughts I was having in my own head. They were just being read out loud by, coming from a seemingly different source. So what that inspired me to do was lose the weight. And I went on this insane exercise regime where I would run 6 miles every morning. I worked with a personal trainer. I was doing everything except steroids because I was scared to do steroids. But I was on every sort of supplement and thing that you can imagine. Plus, I was doing boot camp and spinning and weight training with Jackie on my off time. And so it was insanity. But I lost the weight. And the third season of the show, I got all this praise and attention for the transformation I did with my body. But I was miserable. I still wasn't happy, and I was hungry. And my body type itself, like I come from a meaty stock of people, like being rail thin, that thin thing, that crazy, weird thin thing that we have in our consciousness now was just never going to be in my cards. So obviously I couldn't maintain it. But what it resulted was a hyper awareness of my weight, a hyper awareness of it. And it was painful. It is so painful to compare ourselves to other people that some are just genetically blessed, some are whatever, and not to mention this insane expectation that we place upon ourselves to get this body. Like, it means something.
Oh, sure.
Somewhere in the evolution of the human consciousness came this concept of better than and worse than. And we started to compare ourselves to other people, saying, well, mine's not good as theirs, or theirs is better than mine, or theirs isn't as good as mine, whatever it may be. And the easiest thing to do is compare our bodies. And since we have decided that fat is bad, thin is good, then what it does, when you do gain weight, you have this badness stuck to you. And it's shameful, and it's like having a scarlet letter. And so not long ago, a couple months ago, I was in an exercise class. Now, here's flip to this. So I get married, I fall in love. My husband, how dare he, just loves me and just thinks I am just a hot tomato, whatever I look like. And I had probably put on another 15 pounds or so when I got married. And of course, I was so ashamed of that. And I was in a workout class, and I was exercising, and I looked in the mirror, and I thought, ugh, God, look at you. How could you get like this? And then it hit me. I mean, like, it was like someone flipped on the lights, and I thought, you know what? The fat is totally neutral. The fat doesn't mean anything. The fat doesn't mean anything. Look at you. You're healthy. You're doing this class. You're doing it better than anyone else in the class. That has to say something, but you're not paying attention to that. You're paying attention to how awful you are. And then I realized, oh, you mean, I heard people say, well, love the fat. And I was like, I don't think I can participate in that game. But then I got that, like, oh, the fat is here, and it is drawing up from my subconscious mind or wherever it is, all of these thoughts of unworthiness and shame and whatever, and I'm just projecting them onto the fat. The fat is neutral. The fat doesn't mean anything, but it's giving me an opportunity to look at these thoughts, these beliefs, these habits, and say, am I really interested in carrying this around with me the rest of my life, or am I ready to start enjoying myself? Our job as human beings is to be happy here. And if we're not doing that, then we have to ask ourselves, what are we prioritizing over our happiness? And I was prioritizing self-abuse, this awful, broken record of shame and blame and comparison. And, I was reminded, I actually talked about this yesterday at Inspire, that Roosevelt has that great line that he said, comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah. And A Course in Miracles says God is joy. Right. And so I said, wow, when we compare ourselves, when we're in that belief of better than, less than, then we are blocking our connection to joy, to God. So we are literally stopping the flow of goodness that is always present through our judgments. And it was a real eye-opening experience. And so the rest of my exercise, when I got that, I was like, I'm fat and I'm great. I'm fat and I'm exercising. I'm fat and I'm loved. Who gives a shit? And the funny thing is I wasn't fat. I wasn't fat at all. I wasn't even close to fat. Right. No, I wasn't obese. I wasn't even overweight. It's really madness. And I had this, I'll share this last little tangent, and then I'll hand it over to you. I tend to go on these
I love this, because this is the beautiful stuff of being able to listen to somebody go through their process and share. If more of us did this in this genuine way, how many more people would be served? So go on, brother. Just keep on going. Just keep on going.
Well, I went on this retreat a couple weeks ago. I got back last week, and it was 10 days in the mountains of Vermont. And I was studying with my teacher, sort of my mentor and teacher, and her teacher, who's this she's like the 27th in this lineage of Cherokee chiefs. So she's a Cherokee chief, and she's this well-known Buddhist teacher. She's acknowledged as being like the reincarnation of a great Buddhist teacher, like the feminine embodiment of the Buddha mind or whatever. Let me tell you, it was my first time of having that much time around sort of a mind like that. And It was really, I get why people sell all their stuff and move to India and all that stuff. But so I thought, I was working with a friend of mine who's sort of a nutrition expert and a really wonderful personal trainer in LA. And I said, I think I'm going to, there's still a few pounds that I'd like to shed, just so I don't ever want to feel distracted by my body. I want to be able to feel like in alignment and in love, so I can do what I'm here to do. And I said, I think I'm going to use this retreat as an opportunity to do a little cleanse. And I shared that with my teacher as we were going up to the space, and she said, "Good luck with that." She goes, "I always feel like I have to like eat really grounding foods when I'm around her because there's so much stuff happening." And I go, "Okay, well, what if I did this? What if I tried an experiment? What if I made a vow that for the next 10 days while I'm here, I don't suck in my tummy once, and I just love myself, and also I allow myself to eat whatever I feel would be best for me to eat, and I don't say, well, that has carbs, that has gluten, that has whatever. I just eat whatever is served and whatever feels the best to me in that moment."
Right.
And I ate whatever. I mean, we had burgers, we had chips, we had all these things, and we had salads, and we had healthy stuff along this trip. I made a wonderful dinner for everybody there one night, a big chicken dinner with vegetables, and we had pie, chocolate pie. And
right.
I lost, I'm not even going to say I lost it because I know exactly where it went. I released 10 pounds.
Wow.
Just loving myself. I didn't exercise one time. I ate whatever I wanted to eat. And I lost 10 pounds because I was just loving myself up. And what's really funny, and I wish I could have had this on tape, is I actually asked Venerable Dahani Iwahu, who was the teacher we went to study with. I kind of started talking about this idea of body image and all this stuff. And I said, well, when I got married, I gained 15 pounds. And she goes, "Oh, that's so good. Isn't that lovely?" Like when that happens. And I was like, "No, oh my God, no, it's bad. It's really bad. You don't understand, And she looked at me like I was insane. She was looking at me like she didn't understand. She goes, what are you talking about?" And it's like, well, like how our bodies are blah, 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 blah. And she was just looking at me like, where are you from? What are you talking about? She goes, "Who cares how much you weigh? Are you happy? Are you doing what?" And like the idea of, no, just love yourself and your body will align with that was such a foreign concept to me, because like so many other things, we think once I'm at this weight, then I can love my body. Or once I have this amount of money, then I can feel secure. Once I have this job, I can feel successful. But all of those things are always an extension and outpicturing of our consciousness.
Absolutely.
So the invitation is love yourself first and allow your body to align with that. Really master the art of checking in with yourself before you eat something. Eat mindfully, Check in with yourself before you exercise. Why am I doing this? We have a game we play here at Inspire, and we call it, is it the bully or the boyfriend? So are you bullying yourself into exercising, or are you approaching it from like a loving boyfriend perspective of, babe, you love exercise. It makes you feel good, gives you energy. Let's go do it. Or is it, you're so disgusting. You need to go get on the treadmill for an hour or else no one will ever love you. So getting clear as to who's making the decisions here. How are we moving from it? So we can just start to cut the cords of the insanity that comes with all of this body shame, because at the end of the day, I really love this from A Course in Miracles. It said, the only thing that has value is eternal. So contemplate that. Like, what is eternal? Is your six-pack eternal?
Right.
Are those biceps eternal? No, they're not. They don't have any real value. They're not really symbols of hard work. They're not really symbols of self-love and commitment. You're not more spiritual because you're vegan and you have this crazy yoga exercise regime. That doesn't make you any more spiritual than anybody else. Again, we go back to that better than, worse than, less than,
right,
unworthier than, what's good, what's bad. It's all ways that we separate ourselves from everyone.
But why do you think we do that so much, Jesse? I get it because I've been through it, and I'm letting you preach right now because it's like, this is perfect, because I think this message is so needed right now. But why do you think we do this as human beings so much? We just run ourselves into the ground.
Well, I think that a lot of us are I honestly, like, the more that I do counseling, the more that I counsel people, and I find that everybody's telling the same stories,
right,
different characters, but it's the same story. I mean, everybody.
Yep.
And I believe that there is sort of like three kind of base belief systems that are really active in the human consciousness, or at least the American consciousness. That's where my experience lies. And it's, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm unworthy, or I'm bad.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with me. I'm bad, and I don't know why I'm bad. And so we are like, our conscious minds are like, we're like the most amazing prosecuting attorneys ever. We will find evidence to prove that we are right,
Oh, yeah.
So
always. There's a bag of evidence laying around anywhere you look. Anywhere we want to look in our lives, there's that bag of evidence to prove us wrong.
Exactly. So if we think that we are unworthy, unlovable, or we're bad, we're going to go find proof of that. And we have to find ways to make ourselves feel that way, because we are so much more comfortable feeling like just a little bit of a failure, or feeling like just almost there, or feeling completely devastatingly separate and lonely, that we have to put ourselves in the situations and find proof that we're right, so we don't feel crazy. See, I am unworthy. Look, I gained 5 pounds. That means I'm a bad person. Look, I broke my diet. That means that I obviously have commitment problems and have absolutely no discipline, because only someone that's incredibly disciplined and will, deny themselves things they enjoy are good people.
Well, and what fascinates me is how we can link so many different things together. I'm fat, so therefore that's why I'm failing at work. Oh, and because I'm failing at work, that's why I can't attract a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And because I can't attract boyfriends or girlfriends, I'll never find... I mean, then there we go. We start writing our own Emmy Award-winning show, and we don't even realize it became because of one thing we did by looking at ourselves and our bodies.
There's a really great joke I want to tell you. You'll dig it. So there's this dude. He works in middle management. He's a little overweight, and he's single. And he has so much potential, though, and he knows that. He knows that if he would just, apply himself at work, he could move up the ladder. He could get the salary that he knows he deserves. If he would just exercise a little bit, then he could, get that body that he knows he could have, and then he could finally get the partner that he knows he deserves as well. So it's his 50th birthday. And he says, all right, this is it. This is the year. We're turning it around. It's going to happen. So he gets up. The sun is shining. It's a new day. He wears a really great suit that he feels good in. He has his gym bag packed. He's going to go after work. He has a protein shake in his hand. And as he's crossing the street to get to his work, he gets hit by a bus and he dies. And he goes up to heaven. And he's talking to God, and he goes, God, listen, I know, you don't have to tell me. If I would have just applied myself a little more at work, I could have gotten that promotion, I could have had the job that I deserved. If I had just exercised a little more and gone on that diet, I could have had the body that I know I could have had, and I would have attracted the partner that I know I deserved as well. And God just looked at me and goes, no, man, you missed the point. All I ever wanted for you was to work in middle management, be slightly overweight, be single, and be happy.
And there we have it. The most obvious truths are really where we're supposed to be, when we're supposed to be, at exactly the right time in our life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's also true. As you were sharing so beautifully, a couple of things that came up, that it's funny how things all come together, this whole workout thing, and, loving ourselves about it. I think the reason that certain exercise modalities are becoming so powerful, such as Soul Cycle, the spin cycle with the affirmations and everything that you hear and you say as you're cycling. There's another one called Intense Audi, which is this really kind of cool, intense kind of, I guess you would call it a little bit of kickboxing, jazzercise, a lot of movement in it, but as you're doing all these moves, you're saying these powerful manifestations as you're doing them. These things are becoming popular because they're feeding not only the physical, but they're feeding the soul simultaneously. And I think if we approached our physical being, even as you were saying, wow, if I just love myself a little bit more as I go in to do my workouts, and did it because I love being here and, want to be here because it's making me feel good and it's giving me clarity. It's not about, and I'm going to lose that extra inch around the waist. It all comes down to how we shift our thoughts. I think that's the bottom line, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's very powerful. So, and one of the other things that popped up is my friend Alexandra Damison. She's a health coach, and she just wrote a book, Women, Food, and Desires. Now, she's been getting a whole lot of pushback and a whole lot of hate mail and everything because of some of the things that she said. But she truly encourages feeding our desires, like not only feeding them physically, but she's talking about when you're hungry. You brought up the whole thing of, you came from kind of a family that was very robust and very stout and, weren't meant to be the thin, runner types. She actually encourages, when you have that hunger for something, feed it, because that's your body telling you that you're missing something. She's not advocating pigging out. She's saying if you're hungry, you need to feed what it is. And this is coming from a woman who, her and her husband, Sterling Spurlock, who are now since divorced, they're the ones who did the movie Super Size Me. So she's coming from that space of having been a vegan vegetarian to back to, I realized my body needed this. It needed some meat. As we all do as gay men, we need meat too, but it's that beautiful thing where you feed your desire, and sometimes when you feed the desire, amazing things would happen, as in what you shared when you were on that retreat and dropping the weight. It was because you were feeding your desires. It's my gut feeling.
Yeah, well, I actually had a really wonderful, she makes a very good point, and I think that people are afraid to do that. Of
course they are, because everything tells us contrary to that. You can't do that, you can't do that, and it's like wait. Maybe sometimes you need to do it.
Well, it's just ordering your meal is a terrifying experience, shameful experience. It should be a joyful experience, especially when you're out with people you love. And I was able to ask my teacher, Venerable Tahani, about what is the most spiritual diet. I really was interested because, people will say so much about like the pain of the animal, the fear, you're eating the fear, you're doing this, and how cruel, And so I was expecting her, she's, a Cherokee chief, so like everything, like you can't kill a mosquito in front of this woman. Because every life is precious, and she's also a Buddhist, so she knows about life streams and all this stuff. And she would have us sit for hours and just stare at nature. And what you began to understand is that every little insect, every blade of grass, every tree, every flower was fulfilling a function that was supporting the whole. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I asked her. I was like, "Tell me about vegetarianism," and expecting her to say, go vegan or go home. But she didn't. And she sat there and she goes, well, I've been asked to address this question of vegetarianism. And she said, it's not so much about, she goes, I think we should become much more mindful of what's coming out of our mouths. And she goes, and also being very aware of the process of preparing our meals. When we age, sometimes there's different nutrients that our body needs, and sometimes that comes from animals. And she said, and here's the deal: you can't mess with a Cherokee chief. Like since she was a little girl, she's been trained on how to like hear the energies and feel the energies of nature and all that stuff. So she said, she goes, oh, I can hear the cries of the vegetables that have been cut to make your salad. She goes, I hear that as well. Don't forget, the vegetables are living beings too. And she said, when we are shopping for our food, to infuse so much love into the process. Be mindful of where you buy your meat, where you buy your ingredients. Be mindful of how you're treating the person who is your grocery teller. Like, how are you, the clerk at the grocery store, are you treating them with kindness? Are you aware? When you're preparing the food, are you being mindful when you prepare it? And when you eat, before you eat, do you bless the food? And do you send, waves of love to those who can't eat, who are hungry? And then do you waste your food or not, afterwards? Make sure that everything is used and utilized. So it's about developing a loving kindness with everything we do, including the food. And I feel like that makes a big difference because, the diet thing, it's just another way to energize that worse than, better than thing. Absolutely. Oh, my diet is better than yours. Oh, my diet is kinder than yours. No, my diet has the best effect. well, I have a very spiritually enlightened diet, and you don't. Oh, well, vegan's great, but dairy's okay. You see, in India, they love dairy, but you can't eat the meat.
Right.
Well, no, actually, it's paleo. Actually, it's this and that, da. And at the end of the day, like, Jesus, there's so much information out there. I think your friend is really onto something. Like, listen, what if we began to really develop the ability to listen to ourselves and check in with ourselves and ask, okay, before I eat. Now, like, we can't pretend that obesity is not an epidemic in this country, because it absolutely is. Right. But what we can do, and what I've learned to do, is before I make food, before I decide what I'm going to eat, I check in with myself. I'm like, okay, who is ordering this? Is it because I'm feeling called to eat it, or is it because I'm having some sort of emotional moment and I want to eat, to sort of to feed that? And I'm not interested in that anymore. So I'm interested in being mindful and loving. What's the most loving thing I could eat for myself right now? And I think
that's what people miss the most, is this mindful and loving piece. I know I've done a numerous amount of retreats with gay men, and one of the, I don't want to give away too much, but one of the activities is very intense, and then we follow it up with a very simple serving of fruits. And we ask them to, after they've been through this really intense activity, now it wasn't sex, guys, so don't get excited. It's very intense and physical, and then we have them sit there, and these pieces of fruit that we feed them, they're on this beautiful platter. I mean, we've created these beautiful platters, put them out in front of the guys, and they all sit kind of tribal style along this table with their legs, crossed, and, sitting in a beautiful, yoga posture and everything. But the fruits are so tiny, they're little dices, and we ask them to not just consume, but to take each piece of fruit and mindfully enjoy it. Enjoy the texture, enjoy the flavor, enjoy what it's doing for them in this moment as it nourishes their body, who's just been through a very intense experience. And it's very powerful to watch these guys, and it's happened every time I've been, born witness to this. You can see some of the guys really taking that in, and you can see some of them really fighting, trying to stay there, because what they want to do is just consume, And I think if we became more mindful in so many areas of this part of life, how we consume food, how we consume our drinks and our water, and how we consume each other, instead of tearing each other down, how am I really being of service in this moment, or how is that really affecting me? It truly begins to change everything.
Yeah, man.
So,
whoa.
Yeah, so, wow. I wish we could do this, like, forever, so to speak, but I love having you here, Jesse. You are just such a beautiful being. You're sharing so much with the world. This is the Coming Out Lounge, and one of the things I always ask each guest is to leave one tidbit of something they'd like to share with someone who is coming out, and it doesn't necessarily have to be coming out of the closet in their sexuality. It can be anything, but I know I could give you the microphone and go, okay, go, and we could be here for another 30 minutes just in this, but I love it that I know you're going to give us a beautiful piece of wisdom here for anyone who's coming out, something that will really inspire them.
I actually was talking about coming out of the spiritual closet a couple weeks ago at Inspire, and I said it doesn't have to be a grand gesture or a bold statement of your spiritual or philosophical beliefs. Instead, what if coming out of the closet spiritually looked like living a good life, living a happy and abundant life, a life where you're contributing to the well-being of all? And as we were talking about being mindful, as we're talking about taking our time and loving ourselves, the act of mindfulness, pausing, asking yourself, who's making this decision? Excuse me, asking yourself, is this going to serve me? Asking yourself, why am I beating myself up? Who is doing that? And is this something that I'm interested in continuing? What this process does is it reminds you how sacred your life is, because every life is sacred and valuable. And each of us, and this is what I really got from staring at nature for 2 hours, each of us is contributing to the evolution of the planet. But where are you interested in allowing it to evolve? So I would say in coming out, let us all become masters of our minds. Let us become aware of why we're thinking the things we're thinking, why we're doing the things we're doing, and is it what we're interested in experiencing? Because each and every one of us is here to enjoy our life. Our job is to be happy. And so, and we are worth it. We are so worth it. We are so worthy of that joyfulness, that, I don't know if that makes much sense.
It does. It makes so much sense, because that last piece, well, all of it made sense, but that last piece about how much we are all worthy, and I think that ties completely into what we've been talking about with the body shame. We are so worthy of everything, and we are worthy of living a joyful life and having a happy and abundant life. And I think that's one of the best messages I've had from anyone who's been on the show, is how worthy we all are. And I think we are, yes, tend to forget that. So, okay, so real quick, Jess, how can people find out more about you? What's the best places to find you? JessieBrune.com. That's JessieBrune.com, and InspireSpiritualCommunity.org. Awesome. So I want to say thank you so much, brother, for just taking time out of your busy schedule to come in and commune with us here in the Coming Out Lounge and share your beautiful brilliance. It's just been such a kick-ass conversation today. I love it.
Oh, well, it was absolutely my pleasure, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yes, I'd love to have you back. And if you've enjoyed what you've heard from Jesse today and the things that he's been sharing, hop on over to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you're listening to the Coming Out Lounge, and just give us a little rating, love, and review, only if it feels right. I want you to be spiritually moved and mindful of that review if you're going to do it. If you want to continue to hook up with me over in Facebook land or Twitter, you can hook up with me at Facebook at The Coming Out Coach. You can hook up with me at Twitter with @Rick Clemens. And what's your Twitter, Jesse, real quick?
At Jesse Brune.
That's what I thought, at Jesse Brune. And of course, the hashtag for the show is the hashtag Coming Out Lounge. So now you know how to connect with us, how to get out there, how to get more mindful in what you're doing, and how to come out and just be worthy in yourself. Enjoyed having everyone listening today. Hope you got something from it. And with that, as we always say, we're going to say it's time to go out there and step out, step up, and step into continuing to live your worthy, powerful truth. I'm your host, Rick Clemens. We'll catch you in just another week on the Coming Out Lounge. And until then, be safe, be blessed, and just be you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today with the Coming Out Lounge with your host, Rick Clemens. Make sure you tune in with us next week, same time, same place, for the Coming Out Lounge.